James chapter 1, verse 27. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. Preach word.
Well, this morning we have a special opportunity to actually today and tomorrow to present some just information, reflections on our disciple trips that we took during research campaign week. I led a trip to Anahuac, Mexico, to an orphanage there that we go to twice a year. And instead of me giving you a report on a place that I've been to numerous times, I wanted to let some of our students reflect on what this trip meant to them. They're all going to have different aspects that affected them. And so in the background, we'll just have some images running of our trip. But we're going to let 4 of our students this morning just tell you how this trip affected them and the benefits and blessings that came from it. And tomorrow, we'll have the trip to Nicaragua presented. So I'm going to turn it over to Aiden, and he'll be our first speaker.
Good morning. So this trip was very unique to me for a lot of reasons, but the first was that this actually wasn't my first experience at Anahuac or at Casa de la Esperanza. However, this was the first time in about 7 years since I've been there. And since that time, a lot of change has taken place, both for Anahuac and the church itself, but also for me in my spiritual walk. The home has grown really in both terms of actual building, property, but I really saw during my time there a lot of growth, and I feel like the best term would be maturity in its mission and its purpose there. Because something that was amazing to see, to hear, was that the home's desire for these kids is to really have them to be grown into responsible, godly citizens. And really they want these kids, when they go out and whenever they're able to be fully grown, and they want them to go into the town of Anahuac and then just be a light to the world. And that's something that was very encouraging to see, and something that I saw that the kids reflected during our time there. Just our food distribution and our time just in the town of Anahuac was really just an example of that. Not only was the town of Anahuac, or not only was the church changed, but the town of Anahuac had grown tremendously, I feel like, economically. There was newer buildings there. There was this beautiful, beautiful cross on top of a mountain where we took our initial group photo, and we were able to see the entire town, and it was just beautiful and encouraging to see just how much God has really blessed this small little town. The second thing that was super special about this trip was this was my first opportunity to spend time with the kids and to be able to speak with them genuinely in Spanish, with having some experience knowing that culture. Something that you'll hear from all of us is that these kids love to ask us questions and to really kind of meet us where we're at and try to make us feel comfortable, and actually just they genuinely want to know about us. And so when they were asking us questions like what's our favorite food, our favorite color, our favorite movie, I was able to ask them things like, what do you want to do when you grow up? What kind of job do you want? And it was funny enough because the boys would always say the same thing. They all want to be professional soccer players. They want to be the next Messi, the next Cristiano Ronaldo. And it was really just, whenever I would talk to them, the boys, about soccer, their eyes would just light up. And they were like, oh, you like that too. And so they would just, that's all they ever wanted to talk about was soccer. And it was really sweet. But whenever I would ask the girls this question about what they want to do when they grow up, they would say really just things I wouldn't expect. They wanted to be teachers. They wanted to be leaders, basketball players. One even said that she wanted to be the presidente de Anahuac, which would be the mayor of Anahuac. And it's really encouraging to see that these kids, just with their past and how much they desire to be a light to this world. And I really hope that maybe she someday becomes that mayor of Anahuac. And just for the sake of time, I don't want to take up too much time. Really, I can just overall say that my experience down there in Anahuac and at Casa was truly a blessing. And really, something you'll hear from all of us is that they blessed us more than I feel like we blessed them. And that's something that I won't take for granted. And so I'm going to turn it over to Garrett. Yeah.
So this was my first time ever leaving the country, and despite being bullied by Darrin and Tom the entire time, I think it was a really good experience. I think one of the things that stands out to me is when we were in Anahuac, Darrin pointed out to us this house that was just built out of tin and trash bags, basically. And it housed, he said, I think a family of 5 or 6. And I think just seeing that and really humbled me and reminded me of just how privileged I am and how blessed I am. And I think something that I don't really get that humbling experience here in America. But also the kids, just really the joy that they had. That first night we were there, we got to see what they had been through, some of their stories, and then to hold that up to the laughter that we heard for the next hour, to the smiles that we saw, really shows what the power of the gospel does. And just seeing the power of Jesus work in the lives of these kids. It was good I got to work with Michael Jimenez and just get to know him, hear his story. And we did a lot of digging throughout the week, lots of digging, and I hate jackhammers now. But so 2 days we spent digging this huge trench. They said, we need to find our sewage line. It's between here and here. We don't know exactly where, we don't know exactly how deep. So it was me, Michael Jimenez, Bailey was there for one day, and we spent about 7 to 8 hours digging a 4-foot deep trench, finding this sewage line. And it was kind of hard at that time not to get a bad attitude, but I was reminded that they only had one maintenance guy, and it would have taken him forever to do that. And so I think just us being there really helped them. But overall for me, it was a good experience just to be out of my comfort zone, out of the normal life that we live here in America. And I could say that I would definitely go back again just to experience that joy that those kids had again. So other than that, I'll give it to Bailey.
Yeah, so going on this trip, it was an incredible encouragement. Totally agree with the idea that we were blessed at least as much, if not more, than I feel like we blessed these kids. But it certainly came with a few challenges, and I wanted to share that. I think the biggest challenge for me was I don't really know Spanish. I took Spanish in high school about like 6 or 7 years ago, and it was like Spanish 1. I don't even really remember Spanish 2. So just trying to communicate with these kids, and I'm speaking at like a 3rd grade level, probably worse. And so it was certainly a different experience for me than it was for Aiden, being able to communicate with those kids a little better. And we would sit with them at every meal, and we'd talk with them. And sometimes you'd just be sitting there in silence and trying to remember how to say, what's your favorite color, or understand what color they're telling you is their favorite. So it was a challenge, and it could be a little bit discouraging at times because I think that that's something I strive for, and I consider one of my strengths is being able to sit down and talk with people and converse and ask questions and get to know them and build relationships. And I felt very hindered in doing so. And so if I was ever to go back, I would certainly want to know the language better, do a little bit more preparation. But what was really cool is that in the midst of that challenge, I think you got to see the kids shine a bit more. And these kids were exceptional. And I think a lot of people will meet kids and they'll say they're exceptional, and I'm sure they are. But these kids were like really not like other kids I've ever met. The joy that Garrett described, the love, they would come up to you, they would just give you hugs. But so I'd be sitting at the table with these kids, and they would be the ones like trying to reach out to me. They'd be the ones asking me questions. They would have their little sheet with Spanish and English and trying to ask me questions. And they'd work so hard. They would say something like 3 times, and I'd be like, I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're saying. And they would try again, or they'd go grab someone who knows a little bit more English to be able to ask us what our favorite movie is, And so it was just amazing to me seeing these kids who, like we were talking about, they had a really rough past. Things like being just abandoned by their parents on the side of the road. But to be able to see the place that they're in now is so encouraging, and to see the joy and the love that they have is a testament that you can be Christ to people even in the midst of suffering. And it was an example to me. If they're doing this, these kids who've gone through these terrible things are acting this way and showing love towards other people in this way, then certainly I can do half of that. Certainly I can be more. And so I would say on some level it was a life-changing experience. It at least changed my perspective in how I'm living my life today and this week and this year, and trying to be more intentional in those ways. The work that we were doing that Garrett described, man, digging that hole was rough. We definitely bonded over some of that suffering, but that was cool too, because it was I guess a little bit more of like a tangible action where I can go and say, yeah, we dug that hole, we found that pipe. I know some of the ways that we blessed the kids, even if it was indirectly. But I'm certain that our being there showed the kids that they're valuable, that they're worth our time, that they're loved, that we would come down there and spend time with them. And even if it's just to play Uno with them, where they make up their own rules and somehow end on a +4 card every single time, and I have no idea how they do it. But I'm sure they appreciated that. You could see it on their faces as we were there and as we were saying goodbye. So I hope to go back. I hope to see the kids again. And I would absolutely encourage any one of you to take this opportunity if you ever get the chance. So Jordan, you can come up and speak.
Man, I don't know what else to share that hasn't already been said, but overall, it was an amazing experience, something that I would not soon ever forget. And every one of you, I highly, highly, highly recommend going whenever you get a chance to go. As Garrett was saying, there was a bit of nervousness going, but at first, but as I got closer to going, my excitement just rose and rose, and I was ready for it. I was ready to go. And tell you all the truth, I didn't know exactly what to expect when going there. I know we had Darrin kind of explain it, David as well, but being there and seeing things and being able to experience it firsthand it's really eye-opening. I know we kept talking about the kids, but initially their response to us the first night we were there was just arms open and welcome. And we've been told it usually takes a couple of days for them to warm up to us. Communication, yes, was an issue, but we had some understanding. You know, the boys had one mind, especially when it came to movies, was always the Avengers. Most wanted to be Captain America or Thor or even Hulk. But the girls, that's something I can connect with when it came to favorite movies with my own daughter. Talking about communication problems, I asked one group of girls what their favorite movie was, and they said something along the lines of Descendants. It's a Disney movie dealing with the children of the Disney villains, and I asked them, okay, I didn't quite understand what they were saying, and they said Mal is their favorite movie character. I'm like, I know what you're talking about now. And so we spent the entire lunch discussing Descendants, the movies. And I have to say, too, Google Translate was a lifesaver. It made things so much easier. But what struck me the most is knowing what they went through. It was very heart-wrenching and sad, but to see them each and every day showing the joy and the happiness that they have. And every time that they prayed, they would always pray for their families, to bless their families. Man, to see their faith, to see their trust in God was truly amazing. Overall, it was great. It really opened up my mind and my heart.
Well, I just want to say what an incredible team we had. So thankful we had a couple of Spanish speakers, Aiden and David, and there was one picture where I was just thanking them because they were being waved over to tables all the time, help us translate this sentence. And yeah, the language is a barrier, but it's not. I've been going to CASA for over 15 years. I don't speak any Spanish, and those kids treat me like I'm part of their family. We find ways to get past it with our faces, with our motions. I mean, we communicate. But I just want you to know what a special group this was that went down there. You saw Garrett had his mini-me. Did you see all the pictures of Garrett and little mini-me? He and Mateo, I mean, they might as well have been brothers because they were brothers on this trip. And of course, Mateo's a lot cuter than Garrett, but they're still, but anyway, we had a great trip, great students, great staff helping us get down there. These guys really did share with you a lot of good things. The church is healthy and it is growing in Anahuac. We didn't talk too much about that, but that is a new development. A new development there is the church now expanding. It's not just the children's home. It's the kingdom as a whole is growing there. And this year I was able to, when we were doing the food distribution, talking about wanting these children to become good citizens, I saw one of the ladies from the church helping bag up the food that we were preparing to give out to the community. And I said, I think that's one of the girls that I knew from the children's home years ago. But I'm thinking, could that be? Your mind is like, am I just thinking that looks like her? And so finally, I went up to ask her, and before I could even get the words out of her mouth, she says, Darrin. And so it was. She's now an adult, member of the church, has just brought her mother-in-law to Christ. They're out being not just good citizens of Anahuac, they're being good citizens of the kingdom, bringing others to Christ. And that's what this is all about. And that's what these gentlemen were sharing with you, is just how the gospel has taken this children's home, taken these broken children, and made them whole. That's the gospel. That's all of us. And you get to see it in a physical form. You get to see broken lives. It is literally the happiest place on earth. I don't think anyone will disagree that's been there. The joy that these children have from their just terrible past, horrific past, to see the joy that they have, the transformation. Do you see those words that just go hand in hand with our Christian walk? The transformation in their lives is incredible. It only happens because of God. And God is at the center of this home. And every meal is started with a prayer and with them reciting Scripture. They've memorized a number of large passages of Scripture. They have daily devotionals. Many of the children that are baptized are leading those devotionals daily. Now, we did while we were there, but normally they are involved in leading their own daily devotionals. It's just an incredible place. If you are here next year and you're looking for a foreign campaign to go on, I want to encourage you to go on this. But tomorrow you're going to get to hear about another foreign campaign. And I'm not going to say ours is better. They will, but I don't want to be so bold. No, I've not been to Nicaragua, but they all bring something different to the table. This is a different trip than the Nicaragua trip, but it's taking help to someone. And what kind of help did we take? Well, there is a very happy maintenance man that he did not have to spend days trying to find this sewer, and they need to find it. They need to install a clean out. This is important stuff. When you are dealing with a children's home of 60 children, it's important that you have a clean out for your sewer system. We took help. We took hope. We took food out into the community, giving people that are needing food some hope. But within that food was information, pamphlets on join us for worship on Sunday in the church building in the center of town. There's more than just physical hope. We're giving them eternal hope. But then we returned, taking help and hope, we returned with passion and purpose. And yes, that is a saying that we have at disciple trips, but there's a reason. We come back with more passion for Jesus, more passion for people, more passion for the lost. That's our purpose. Our purpose is to share that good news, not to keep it to ourselves, but to share it. And so that's our goal at Disciple Trips. And I just want to say again, what an exceptional team. What an exceptional team this was. That's our presentation on Anahuac, and I'll turn it over to Arthur now. Thank you for listening.